stand by. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back to this episode of Digital Drip. Once again, I'm your host, Lexi, and this time we have a fresh set of talent for you. We have 2 student poets who are going to come on this stage and slam some poetry down for us. So let's open our ears, open our minds, and enjoy the show. Today's first stellar student poet is the one, the only, Becka Jackson. Welcome. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit to us?
Yeah, so my name is Becka Jackson. I study creative nonfiction writing and professional writing, and I'm also getting my certificate in publishing.
So how long have you actually been writing for?
Oh man, I've been writing for as long as I can remember. I think in 5th grade, I tried to write a novel, but it was basically just Harry Potter with a few different characters. But yeah, Hagrid was in it and everything, and so I've always known that I want to be a writer, but you know.
What has been your most memorable performance to this day, if you have one so far?
Yeah, I got to read at Writers Club maybe last month. So it's a gathering of writers in Wilmington. We get together every month at Old Books on Front Street downtown, and maybe like 10 of us sign up to read our work. And so I read for the first time last month there, and I read 3 poems, and I was so nervous because most of the people in Writers Club are getting their MFA in creative writing or they're in graduate school, and I'm an undergraduate, so I definitely felt like on the young side of things. But yeah, it was fantastic just hearing applause from people that you admire and respect. That means the world.
Definitely,
Yeah.
and I can't wait to hear what you have for us today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too.
I can hardly hear her words because her tongue tapping around on sounds like k and l and ch, sounds like a language I forgot to learn. She tilts her head back. Oceans could fill the space between our seats. If I look at her lips, and f, I melt, stick to the eyes. Lovers always told me how to be and what to do, and I was and I did. A pinwheel spinning forever and nowhere. Our white shirts are dotted thin with rainwater, and she's looking at me again. Heat on my neck. How could my body learn to be the ocean?
What has inspired you to write? Like, what caused you to want to pick up the pen and paper?
I can't really trace it back to one specific thing. It's sort of just always been the way that I express myself. I'm very inspired by nature. Writing's always just how I get my thoughts out of me, and that's what makes sense to me.
Yeah. Do you have any like poets or artists that you do take inspiration from or have inspired you in any way or any of your works?
Yeah, definitely. So one of my favorite authors is Cheryl Strayed. She writes nonfiction primarily, but her work is always just so honest and raw and pure, and I really admire her for that. And then Mary Oliver, of course, I have to give her a shout out. She passed away this year, which is very sad. But she writes amazing nature poetry, and I love that.
So what's your favorite part about getting on stage and performing your poetry to an audience?
Yeah, so I get a little bit of stage fright sometimes, I'll be honest. When I grew up, I was a dancer, so I have been on stage often, but that never makes the nervousness go away. I think the most amazing thing is when you're in the middle of something that you really care about and you've put so many hours of work and passion and love into, and you just kind of look up for a second and you can form a connection with somebody in the audience, and you realize, like, yeah, I'm speaking to you. Like, you're the person that I wrote this for. Like, that's the best part.
Last year of school, last kiss before I turn the doorknob, how delicious this autumn of almost leaving. Last drive through town to drop off the garbage. Pawn shop sign, we buy your unwanted G-O space D. Last glimpse at a choking sun for 2 weeks, last look at the house for 3. Everyone says hibernation is temporary, but dear gods, I am afraid of still waters. Last night we planned to drive to the ocean, dive under a full moon to celebrate September and endings coming real soon. Last year, North Carolina didn't get a hurricane. My list of gods is shorter than my list of gods I still haven't met. I dream of wildflowers who don't grow at sea level, don't fear water lapping their chins. Everyone says salt in the air is good for the skin, but they forget salt repels magnetic fields. When I leave here, I hope it's a pulling, not a pushing. Driving back down from Virginia, the trees were bending and the sunlight hit the windshield, and I will admit, crossing the state line, I did cry. Who would ever want just one thing to worship? How have I forgotten until now that this was his street? That cold little back room, sneak around the kitchen after midnight, nestle in the twin between bony knee and brick wall. Say I knew someone who lived here. Yeah, that's easier. Where's Will? Say, don't know, let's go inside, I want a beer. Say, hey, I think I know that girl. Say, no, wait, never mind. Someone told me once that it was nice of me to date an addict. Like charity? Like giving away my 18-year-old body and life, as it turns out, is how to tell a man you feel sorry for him, like, hey, rehab didn't work out, try me on instead. Hi, and this is my girlfriend. Say, hi, say no more. Pop my tabs soft, wrist flick like I crack eggs on the stove top, stare at the cabinets until I know every wood grain, smile along, and no one will notice me. Are you having fun? Say it's kinda hot in here. Remember bleary eye, gray sky, stubble kiss, coat hug, start the car but the engine is sleepy, sit for a minute before sneaking back to the dorm room bunk bed. Retrace human maze, around table, 2-door, outside, bonfire, stand in the smoke, eyes stream, throat close, he will step away, everyone will step away, someone will curse, squat, fan the fire, do not cough, do not wipe eyes, let the can fall, coat fall, boot melt, wisp singe, finger flame, rib crackle, throat flutter, voice catch.
Our second student poet that we have for you guys is the one, the only, Ricki Nelson. You want to introduce yourself to us a little bit?
Yeah, so my name is Ricki Nelson. I am a double major in creative writing and film studies, and I'm a poet.
And how long have you been a poet for?
I started writing poetry about a year ago. So I've only been writing poetry for a year, but I've been writing everything else since I was like 5.
And has there been like a aha moment that's like inspired you to write, or anything that's inspired you to write?
My mom is actually a playwright, so I grew up in theater and whatnot. We did a lot of plays that she would write in the community, so that's how I kind of first got my storytelling. And then I would read a lot of books, so that's how I also started writing like fiction and whatnot. So it wasn't never like one specific moment. I was like, this is why I need to write. It was cumulative of like a lot of different moments from my childhood.
So cool.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other like artists or poets, whether we may know them or not, that have inspired you in your work?
Yeah, there's this group that goes on tour every year called Poets in Autumn, and one of the poets' name is Joseph Solomon, and he's really cool. And the reason I specifically like how he does his poetry is because he's very casual with it, and a lot of the times he starts his poetry and you don't even realize that like he started performing. So that's something that like his technique that I've tried to use in my own work, and he's been a really big inspiration.
Yeah, that's
sure.
really interesting. It's unique. Well, I'm really excited to see what you have for us.
Thanks.
And ready to get rolling. Yeah.
They say the best poetry is subtle, elusive. So I'm going to tell you now that this is not my best poem. Instead, it's more like my personal public autopsy, like unstitching old wounds as I use my words as a scalpel to peel back a piece of me beneath me. You may see some things, but believe me, that is the beauty of these words. They can be as evasive as I want them to be, as invasive as open heart surgery, but surely you want to take a peek into me. Everyone wants to see someone bear it all, so you show me yours. I'll show you mine. I'll walk you down the memory lane of my mind to this time and that time, and time seems to be going faster the more I think about it. So I don't think. I've learned it does more harm than good to roam the dangers that is my mind, an existential war zone, and I can't seem to decide which side I'm on, but I'm sure there's a side of me, a version that doesn't question my existence with every breath I breathe. So I've been researching parallel universes because I want to meet them. One day, I want to fall in love. Palm sweaty, knees weak, arm heavy love. I want to lose myself and then find myself and then lose myself again, just like a first love you convince yourself will be forever. I want to write and write and write the world's longest love letter, but until then, I will write about how people's eyes don't match their smiles. As if there's some sort of disconnect. I've noticed this often in large crowds. Downturned eyes, upturned lips, as if they are captives in their own bodies, as if they've been struck by the same curse. Their smile, the only evidence that they believe it's more important to grin than bear it. Than to bear it. All poets stay up at night wondering what they are going to write about. I am no exception. So when I am alone, twisting and turning in my twin size, I wonder, why am I here? I wonder, will I ever get over him? And I wonder, do they see past my smile? You used to only look at me. I used to be your goddess, and you used to make me promises that you would only ever have eyes for me. Are you blind now, or just a liar? Because you used to describe our love as a wildfire, uncontainable, untamable, but now I see all it ever really was destructive, killing all life in its presence. Better a liar than a thief. Better a thief than a killer, but you, my friend, are the Holy Trinity. You lied to my face, you stole my heart, and you killed a piece of me. And like anything this destructive, you left behind rubble, you left behind ashes, and you left behind trash for me to clean up. Children make messes. Men make things, and you take things. So you're not only a thief, you are also a child. Are you not tired of always being a child and always using my parts as playthings, always leaving me breaking and never making me better? And I'm not bitter. I just want to be better. No, I am bitter because I want to be better. Better than when I was with you, better than before I met you, and better off without you. So you can tell me lies now and I won't buy them, even if they are free of charge. And that piece of me you thought you could keep, the piece of me you thought I wouldn't miss, thought I wouldn't notice, I want you to know this. I'm coming to collect it with interest. So no, there's not a warrant out for your arrest, and no, I don't want to start a war and cause any more death. I'm just tired of being bitter and ready to be better.
What's your favorite part about performing your work to an audience?
I'd say like my favorite thing when it comes to performing is the audience reaction to what you're saying, because you spend time in your room or wherever you create constantly like reworking something, practicing to yourself, and then finally being able to do it for people to hear and seeing their reaction, or like afterwards when they'll come up and be like, oh, what you said really stood out to me, or I can relate to that. So that relatability of like the vulnerability that you're willing to put on stage is really cool.
Has there been like a most memorable performance for you, or like a biggest performance that you had?
There's been three performances for me that have been really significant. I think one would obviously be like my first performance, which was back last March. I got to perform for Athenian Press. They do something called Femme Speak Outs, and it's just to encourage like women artists to come together and like share their stories and everything. So that was my first time performing ever any of like my original poetry, which was really cool. Then I got to go to LA over the summer. I interned out there, and I got to perform at something called DPL, or The Poetry Lounge, which is the biggest weekly meeting open mic in the United States. So I got to perform there. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Shihan, he's a really famous like spoken word poet. He hosted every week too, which is dope. So I got to perform a piece there, and then this past November I competed in UNCW Talk It Out, and that was my first like long piece I got to perform in public, and it was also cool because like I won and whatnot, but I got to speak about what it was like being black at a predominantly white institution.
I often get asked, what is it like being black at a predominantly white institution? If you ask a million different people, you're gonna get a million different answers. But if you ask me what I think it's being asked this question. It's being reminded you are the only brown person in the room when the subject of race is mentioned, and our heads turn in your direction because your skin is evidence that this is your area of expertise. It's being called the wrong name, but knowing who they meant and knowing the only thing you and that person have in common is that the color of your skin is both brownish. It's being hunted down for every diversity photo. It's making every photo diverse, the very definition of the word hiding in your skin, mixing in your melanin. It is fingers finding their way into your fro, finagling with your kinks and curls like freshly spun cotton without your permission. It is a white boy saying the N-word 3 feet away from you, and all the blue, green, and brown eyes in the room finding you, wondering what you are going to say. It's being tired of always being the one to say something, but always being the one to say something. It's trying to explain that the history of a word is much more than a rap lyric. It's looking him in the eyes and knowing he doesn't get it. Knowing he doesn't hear you as you see every syllable you've said sail out his other ear and fall to the floor like the sound waves from his Dr. Dre headphones. It is no one understanding your frustration when you tell them the story of the white boy 3 feet away. Them not quite getting it, not quite seeing the history of your ancestors wedged between the double G. It is you. Thinking this poem is me pulling out my black card as if I keep it nestled in my back pocket between my cell phone and student ID. It is this poem being categorized as black before poetry, as if these words wear my skin instead of bare my soul. It is me. Worrying I can't share these words, worrying I can't share my fears, thoughts, and anxieties because somewhere along the line my reality became synonymous with politics, as if I am always up for debate. What is it like being black at a PWI? It is work. It is tiring, draining. It's exhausting. It's you, white boy 3 feet away, thinking this poem is meant to make you feel bad. It's me telling you it's not, but knowing you won't believe me. It's sifting through the words of this poem, and it's still not being about me. It's nothing being about me as I flip page after page in my textbook. It's worrying that you will mistake me as the angry black poet when I just want to be seen as the passionate poet. What is it like being black at a PWI? What is it like being black? What is it? It is a sigh leaving me. It is a tongue scarred with bite marks. And it is a lie mixed in my voice as I find it to answer. It is what it is.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of Digital Drip. Tune in with us next time for a special season finale episode where Dylan and I will both be sending you guys off the right way. Have a good night.